In a world that moves fast, we all need a place to slow down, to reconnect, to heal. Meet Joy Adler, healer, teacher, award-winning vocalist, and a guide for those ready to awaken their soul. As a dean and senior faculty member at the world-renowned Barbara Brennan School of Healing, Joy has spent over 3 decades blending spiritual wisdom with grounded, practical tools, helping people transform their pain into purpose. Now, in A Healer's Path, Joy invites you into a sacred space of real conversation with masters of healing from around the globe, including access to soulful music and ways to open to powerful healing experiences. Each episode is a bridge between the mystical and the everyday, between who you've been and who you're becoming. This is your invitation to come home to yourself, to live with more presence, more peace, and more joy. Welcome to A Healer's Path with Joy Adler.
Hello, everyone. This is a very exciting day that has been many years in the works. It is my absolute honor and privilege to invite Dr. Daniel Yadegar, to A Healer's Path. And we have so many things to talk about, right, Doctor?
I am so excited to be here with you and share this space.
Oh, it's just, you are on the front lines helping so many. And let me tell you a little bit, let me brag on him just a little bit, if I may, my friends. Dr. Yadegar describes his philosophy as Eastern medicine meets Western medicine, bringing cutting-edge technology, techniques, and treatments to help members optimize their lifespan and, how about this, their health span. And you got a couple of quotable quotes, which I love. Healthy aging is about meeting every milestone of life with grace, body, mind, and soul. You are a young master, but you were called to medicine at a very young age. So, Dr. Dan, tell us more about your passion for serving humanity, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Joy. I come from a family of physicians, so you might say that science and medicine is imprinted in my DNA. My dad's a doctor, 2 of my grandparents are doctors, so I come from a family of people who really focus on science and service. I grew up internationally, and my dad went to med school really late. He was in his 30s when he went to med school. I was 5 in the Dominican Republic. So that early exposure of impoverished people and famine and illness really left an impression on me at an early stage. And I knew from that point on, even at the age of 5, 6, 7, that that's something that I wanted to really get into. So through my development, that early exposure in the Dominican Republic left that thought that I want to be a scientist, I want to be a doctor, and I want to make an impact. And that's all I've been doing for the last 40 years.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Dr. Daniel Yadegar, check this out, is a triple board certified in internal medicine, cardiology, and anti-aging and regenerative medicine with a focus on preventative medicine, folks, and longevity. We're living longer. He's going to teach us how to live a full life with optimal health and well-being. And you really blend like that Eastern and Western approach. And when I think about you and what you just shared, it's very clear that your heart has been in this and devoted to service. As a young boy, you're wanting to make a difference. You're seeing suffering. And it actually led you to this beautiful career, in addition to it being part of intergenerational helpers and doctors and science. And it's an amazing lineage. Tell us more.
It's been a passion of mine, whether I was in high school and I was a candy striper. In college, I was the president of the pre-medical society, went straight to medical school, and went a very sort of straight path of med school, internal medicine residency, cardiology fellowship. I was the director of the cardiac intensive care unit at Lenox Hill, so I came very close to observing and treating life and death. There was a bigger calling for me, so I left critical care medicine and did a fellowship in age management and regenerative medicine, knowing that I wanted to take care of the patient, the whole patient, not just the heart.
You have an amazing desire. Like this is legacy work, right? To touch as many lives with your wisdom as possible. Love your Instagram. Friends, you're going to want to follow Dr. Dan Yadegar because he has some of the most fantastic reels of nuggets of wisdom that help every person. Talk a little bit about your career in medicine as it stands now.
So I take care of patients. I'm part of a patient practice called the Atria Health, which really has taken healthcare and precision medicine at the very highest level. I also sit on boards of different biotech companies moving forward innovation, whether it's with neurodegenerative and brain health and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's to cardiovascular health or immuno-oncology. So I get to see the forefront and the cutting edge of medicine and biotechnology. And I've also launched a couple of supplement companies. So I sort of span all aspects of like functional medicine, actual patient care, and science and innovation. And people are like, how do you, do all of that, or how do you juggle it? And for me, it's just an expression of making an impact and being involved in science and medicine. So for me, it's very cohesive. And yeah, it's been a really exciting journey. And I look forward to continuing it and seeing where it takes me.
And on your Instagram, you're just sharing what you're inspired by that day. And we get to glean that wisdom because not all of us may have access to that kind of healthcare, but I really love your passion to reach all peoples with your knowledge.
It's such a goal of mine. I would love to be able to share my knowledge and what I've learned and my intuition with people who otherwise wouldn't necessarily have access. That would bring me great fulfillment.
Well, it's happening, clearly. So you want to check that on Instagram, my friends, for wisdom from a master. And of course, that was your destiny with your incredible family lineage of doctors and really always helping others. And your background of seeing the impoverished and your heart going out to them, wanting to make a difference, having that inform your journey is so moving. I can understand why you really treat the body, mind, soul, and you're really trying to help everyone that you can. So may this go out to all that really need it. And this is going to be a continued conversation. We have a lot of things to talk about. You,
There are so many things to talk about. I mean, topics are endless, from our food supply to microplastics to the air quality to preventative medicine, precision medicine. I mean, honestly, we could have a PhD dissertation just on Zoom about medicine, healthcare, and prevention.
Love that. From your lips to the divine's ear. And I like that you said microplastics too. That's really up. I will share with you, Dr. Dan. I had something grow in my hand. It was right by my thumb, and I couldn't open the almond butter jar anymore. You know it's time to get that taken care of, right? And so the surgeon, who was fantastic, and he connected with lineage. I love that. He's like, what is your lineage? And he would turn to, he was a teaching surgeon, to his intern and say, you have to understand where a person is from to understand how the mechanics of their body work. And he was a young master like yourself. And I'm like, wow, who is this person and how come there haven't been surgeons around like him? Reminded me very much of your approach. But when they took that out and tested it, do you know what that was?
Plastic.
Plastic. It was plastic.
Wow.
All these years of trying to do the best we can, having purified water,
Sure.
right? But we're ingesting a lot of microplastics and they're coming out of the body in different ways.
There was just recently an article in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology that out of 50% of people who had their carotid artery opened, when they looked at the plaque, there was plastic inside the plaque. So there's a lot to cover here.
A lot to cover here. Time to go back to glass. We have a treat for our viewers and our listeners. Dr. Dan has provided us with something special on a healer's path. And let's go to that first slide, shall we? And why don't you share with them what it is that you wanted to convey to begin our series of conversations?
Yes, we discussed talking about transformative healthcare and the need for a new system. Talking about how healthcare in a lot of ways is broken and what's really missing and why it's so fragmented. And another topic that we felt passionate about only because it's so timely is vaccine side effects and long COVID, which affects more people than we really realize.
Oh, thank you so much. We're going to go to that next slide, and we'd love for you to go down that and share whatever it is that you would like, because really you're talking about what's really needed in our current medical system, right?
Yeah, so our current state of the medical system, it's fragmented medical care. So you go see the internist is not talking to the gynecologist is not talking to the neurologist. There's no central sort of approach. So it's very fragmented. So a lot of medications get duplicated and the big picture gets missed. So the good old days of having one doctor who has all of your information is gone, and that fragmented care, there's oversights that happen, there's undersights that happen, and it's not a really cohesive, holistic approach to medicine. The other thing is over medicalization. We've really become very prescription happy. And given some of the economic imperatives of doctors seeing patients quickly, it's easier to just write a prescription than get to the root cause of a problem. So it's very knee-jerk prescription driven. And don't get me wrong, there are times when prescriptions are absolutely necessary, but we've entered a system where it's really become over medicalization and we're not really getting to the root cause of things. And then there's systemic insufficiencies of long wait times, better in the US than in Canada for sure. And then, insurance barriers, people not being covered. Before we started this, we talked about how passionate we feel about universal health coverage and how we think that should be a universal right, denial of treatments, tests, and access to quality care. So there's a lot of systemic inefficiencies, problems that exist.
Well, let's talk about what's really needed in the next slide.
So these are things that I am so excited about. And Joy, please feel free to stop me to go over these in greater detail. So the first thing is we talk about preventative medicine. And I really believe that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Our system is not one that's really set up for preventative medicine. How do we talk about lifestyle and sleep and exercise and nutrition when it has to do with heart disease and Alzheimer's? There is so much of it that is actually preventative. So that's one. And that dovetails into the next point, the education on proper nutrition, exercise, and mental health. There's so many resources and there's an abundance of data on the importance of these things in preventing things that actually end up killing us or affecting our quality of life. So we need more emphasis on chronic disease prevention, whether it's diabetes or prediabetes, heart health, obesity, which seems to cut through just about every disease state seems to go back to obesity and being overweight. And that's why these GLP-1s, Manjaro and semaglutide, are having their moment, is because we know that it's so incredibly tied into whether it's cognitive decline or cancer or obesity or heart disease, they're all linked together. I would love to talk about personalized medicine and precision medicine. We'll get into that, I think, on a later slide, and the importance of genetics and individualized care plans. We're all born with our genetic blueprints, and we're starting to realize that whole genome sequencing and knowing your genetic blueprint is really, really important for knowing what kind of healthcare you need and what kind of medications might work well for you, what diseases you're at risk for. Lifestyle changes tailored to the individual, early detection and intervention. Now we have something called liquid biopsies. There's a company called Grail that looks at circulating tumor DNA in your blood. It's a blood draw that can look for 50 different kinds of cancer in your blood before it's even clinically manifest. That's mind-boggling, and these technologies are going to get better and better, and hopefully the price points become lower and lower so that they become part of your annual physical. And then incorporating appropriate screenings, diagnostics, and wellness checkups, getting your colonoscopy on time, getting the appropriate vaccines, getting your pap smears, mammograms, prostate exams. All these things are ways of getting ahead of the eight ball. And I think establishing a good relationship with a primary care physician who can be your quarterback.
We have to be so proactive as well. Recently was the Ithaca Zen Center, where many of us go for detoxing each summer. They've been there for over 30 years. I mean, they really know how to help. But they had a gentleman who is a doctor from California who came up through the detox center of the body mind restorative retreat, where many people go to just clear the heavy metals, clear the pollutants, right? Pesticides, all the things that as we're trying to live our best life, we can't help but imbibe. And he was saying what's staggering for him is that exactly what you're saying. It's called compartmentalized now. People are falling through the cracks medically. And one of the things that was so upsetting for him, especially because he's been part of the detox center for so long, is why isn't the first thing that a surgeon will look at when there's a pregenetic disposition and then a diagnosis is nutrition? And why aren't everyone talking about a program that's going to help all of that? And you name it magnificently here. And I really want to ask you what you think the average person can do. And perhaps with precision medicine, that's part of it, if you want to go to that next slide, or perhaps you would want to share about that.
I would love to share about that. I went through 4 years in med school, and we had segments and seminars and courses and everything you can humanly imagine, from orthopedics to neurology to dermatology. We did not even have a full module on nutrition. And I believe that food is medicine. It's really important to talk about food. One of the things I also wanted to talk about is that in Europe, a lot of their guidelines in terms of toxins that they allow is much more strict than it is in the United States. We have a lot of things that are available in terms of pesticides and endocrine disruptors that are in makeup. And the US doesn't do a very good job at regulating and making sure that these chemicals are not entering our food supply, our water supply, etc. So a lot of disease, and we're seeing, more cancer, lung cancer in non-smokers, in younger patients, colon cancer, the age that's sort of becoming a disease of people who are in their 40s and 50s. And the American Academy of Gastroenterology just dropped their colonoscopy screening cutoff from 50 to 45 because of these trends. And if we don't take care of our planet, we don't take care of our food supply, these autoimmune issues and cancer and malignancy issues are going to continue. So just having mindfulness around that.
Great point, Dr. Dan, because I do the spiritual tours to Europe annually. And it's a very frequent conversation when we get together thereafter, how people connect with how food is different in Europe. How, for example, some people that might find themselves very gluten sensitive because of the allergens that develop in their system in America, that when they go to Europe, they don't have the inflammation responses. Their immune system disorders are not getting triggered, and they start to think about, how can I purchase food that's not from America, for example, to be able to live my best life and not have the chemicals, not have issues, right? And really interesting conversations about the impact that's different in America versus Europe. So I really like that you brought that forward. Let's talk about that precision medicine and gene sequencing, because we know that you have a finger always on the pulse of what's coming out.
So, a lot of the recommendations that exist, and appropriately, are based on population level medicine, where they do big studies, but we're starting to realize that not one size fits all, in that men and women are different, people have different backgrounds and ethnicities. We're all carriers of different genes, and our genes speak to our risk of developing disease. And there's something called a polygenic risk score, where we can look at different mutations that we're born with to let us know our risk of developing different things. Now, Not everyone's going to want to know those things. I think having agency and knowing more gives us the ability to prevent things and take advantage of technology when they become available. So I try to encourage people to, when they can, to get as much information about their genes as possible. But we're starting to understand that sequencing gives you not just insights into the diseases that you're at risk for, but it allows you to have targeted therapy. God forbid you develop something. So there's a lot to be gleaned from gene sequencing. And I think over the next 10 or 15 years, we're going to start seeing that become much more common in just common everyday medicine.
Tell us more about screening in terms of your field too, cardiovascular.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I am on the board of this company called Clearly, and Clearly uses AI to look at the coronary arteries and look at it, not just how much plaque you have, but what kind of plaque you have. Now, one might think that all plaque is made equal, but there's high risk plaque, plaque that's more ready to rupture, and then there's more stable plaque. And we're actually able to risk stratify patients based on coronary imaging with very, very little radiation. The world of cardiology is moving forward at a quantum speed. And to be able to look at the coronaries and look and see if there's blockage and what kind of plaque there is and track the kind of plaque and really help catastrophic heart attacks from happening, that is just amazing. So there's a lot of technologies coming out there. And now the days of looking at cholesterol, it used to be just total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, and triglycerides. Now there's all these different cardiac biomarkers that tell us so much more about the patient. One of the big ones right now is lipoprotein A, LP little a. It's the new bad boy on the block. A lot of the pharma companies are developing drugs to target LP little a. And people are saying, a lot of cardiologists who are lipid experts are saying that it's actually way more atherogenic and likely to cause plaque than LDL is. So if you haven't had your LP little a checked, maybe you can ask your primary care doctor to check that.
Now, you also list a neurodegenerative diseases. This is really up too, isn't it? And we get so curious about why are there more incidences of dementia or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's? Talk a little bit about that and where medicine is heading to support the every person.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joy. You know, on one side, we're just getting better at diagnosing things. So whether the prevalence is going up because we're just better diagnosticians and have more things at our disposal, that's part of the argument. But also, we're realizing that Alzheimer's and Parkinson's are increasing. Parkinson's is a movement disorder. Alzheimer's is a dementia and memory loss disorder, both cognitive disorders. And there's different things, you know, again, environment, genetic predisposition. There's a gene called the ApoE4 gene. This really falls into preventative medicine. And we get one copy of the ApoE gene from our mom and one copy from our dad. And the normal distribution is a 3 copy from our mom and a 3 copy from our dad. Now, if we get one 4 copy, a 4, let's say a 4 from our dad and a 3 from our mom, that increases our risk of Alzheimer's a little bit. And then if we have 2 copies of the ApoE4 gene, that increases our risk of Alzheimer's a lot. Now, if you have 2 copies of the 4/4, there's a lot of things you can do from a preventative standpoint to decrease and minimize your risk of developing Alzheimer's, from exercise to getting your omega fatty acid index up to making sure that you're sleeping well, that your blood pressure is controlled, that you're not pre-diabetic. And so to those people who are like, well, I don't even want to know what my ApoE gene type is, the funny thing is that the researchers who are looking into this realize that a lot of it is preventable. So we have this whole world of epigenetics. Just because it's written in your genes doesn't mean it's gospel. So there's a relationship between your choices and your DNA. And every decision you make is a micro contract between you and your DNA. And you want to make all these small, good decisions. Wellness is really a journey of making a sequence of small, good decisions. And that's what I really want to empower people to, you know, there's always a better decision, a higher vibration decision to be made. No matter what your economic resources or what your access is, there's always a good decision and a better decision. And what I want to really encourage people is to go for that better decision and to feel worthy of it, because it adds up over time. And that's the expression of true health and wellness.
And there's empowerment in that, isn't there? I think it's very important to put front and center, what is my genetic predisposition? When our physician asks us to write our family history, it should be across the board and go to all of their care team. And when we have that from a perspective of holistic health, we can make empowered decisions. Oh gosh, I've got a history of diabetes. I'm going to be super careful about carbohydrates and sugars so that I can really kind of break the chain, because I know that this is something that is in my genetic sphere. So we can make empowered decisions for lifestyle choices, as we call it in Ayurvedic. But really, it's, gosh, I'm starting to err on high blood pressure. I want to stave that off. What are some decisions I can make nutritionally with exercise, as you named? Like, we can really be proactive in our own care, as well as what I love is what you're leaning towards. Hey, this is so smart too, by the way. This would save insurance companies so much money. It's the early detection.
Absolutely.
Early detection is the key to saving lives, but so often people are turned down from the everyday test and things that could really support people to make those empowered decisions prior to anything being detected. It's a potentiality, but what are steps? And I think that that's a place where we could start bridging with the medical as partners in our healthcare to educate the average patient about what they genuinely have power over.
I couldn't agree with you more, Joy. I think it's about having agency and seeking agency. I know when I talk to people about health and prevention, oftentimes there's so much information. Some of it's good information, some of it's misinformation, but patients feel overwhelmed with the amount of things that they need to know about and think about. And it's like, where do I start? And I think one of the things that you and I, Joy, can really make an impact is disarming that so that it's a safe place for people to get digestible, actionable steps for self-care. And that's one of my greatest goals.
Well, you're really on your way to manifesting that globally. And so I love that you're doing that international reach by sharing the wisdom that you have, Dr. Dan. Let's go to something that has been really up. And let's go to the next slide. Tell us more about what you're seeing from a medical perspective.
So there was a lot of questions about the COVID vaccine. It was an mRNA vaccine, and questions about side effects. And I've seen myocarditis. Myocarditis is inflammation of the heart muscle from the COVID vaccine a couple of times. It wasn't super common. What I'm seeing more of these days is really the long COVID and patients who have either severe cases of COVID and the symptoms linger beyond the acute phase. So I'm seeing a lot more of issues around that than I am with the vaccine itself. I think a lot of people are opting not to take the vaccine, which in some ways might be increasing the rates of long COVID as well, because it seems people who are unvaccinated are more at risk for developing that.
And, we've been hearing a lot in medical journals and the big papers and journalists talking about blood clotting that they're seeing. Can you talk about that a little bit in terms of our current health crises and what they're learning and how to treat long-term COVID?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So both with the vaccine and with long COVID, some people have microclots, very hard to detect. It's not your traditional like DVT or blood clot in your legs, microclots that are happening because there's an immune dysregulation that's happening, inflammation. Some people use natural things like nattokinase, which comes from soy that has blood thinning properties to sort of help with that. Long COVID requires a very multi-pronged approach to getting healthy. It's some of the toughest cases are long COVID cases. One of the things that I think is very important is establishing a normal circadian rhythm, a normal wake sleep cycle, so that you're going to sleep at the same time, waking up at the same time, because a lot of the hormonal patterns come out of your circadian rhythm. LED light therapy for some people supports mitochondrial health. So red and near infrared light can be very helpful. Some people are even using hyperbaric to help with long COVID. There's a center in Florida called the Aviv Clinics that I've consulted with and sent patients to that has had tremendous results with hyperbaric oxygen and long COVID patients. But it's not one thing, it's not one magic pill that gets rid of it. It's really the perfect example of little small steps that get you to that finish line.
I love this. And, I'm smiling because I'm very touched by you referring people to alternative modalities that support the whole person. This is really where medicine can go and truly be beneficial yet again and using this state-of-the-art technology. I love the fact that you would refer. Let's talk about understanding long COVID. Let's go to the next slide, just so people have an idea of it, because it's tricky, isn't it? Why is someone depleted? Is it because they're not getting a lot of sleep? They have a new baby, or maybe it's because there's a lot of stress going on at work, or perhaps they're midlife and they have a drop in hormones that are leading to a lack of that constant circadian rhythm and running more cortisol, for example. We see that a lot in the holistic health field and having to recharge adrenals, etc. So which is it? Is it something hormonal, stresses, lifestyle, or is it long COVID? Tell us more.
Yeah, so I think, the definition of long COVID, it refers to the persistent symptoms that continue weeks and months after the acute phase. So you get sick, you have a fever, you have cough, normally you get better, and then within a couple of weeks you're back to your baseline. But these patients are having a different experience. They have brain fog, their joints hurt, they
Mm.
can't focus, they're short of breath, they might have palpitations or difficulty maintaining their blood pressure. And it seems that 10 to 20% of people develop some form of long COVID, and some people longer than others. Some people have it for months to years. It seems to mostly affect women and younger adults. And the number one theory is that the virus comes, it triggers your immune system. Your immune system's responsibility is to get rid of that virus and throw it in the garbage.
Mm.
But the immune system gets overactivated. So there's some sort of dysregulation. And now the very thing that was supposed to protect you, your immune system, is wreaking havoc in your body. It's causing overinflammation, causing brain fog, arthritis, all these different symptoms. And it's how do you retrain your immune system to start behaving normally so that you're not having all these side effects and sequelae of the virus. And some people say that the virus might even stay around, that there's viral reservoirs, and that COVID particles might stay in your bloodstream and in tissue for longer periods of time. So it's an emerging field, but I think that the best theories are the immune dysregulation and viral reservoirs.
May I ask, is there a specific test that can determine definitively, or is it kind of working with, were they sick with COVID-19? When was I wouldn't know what that is, but from a medical perspective, is there a test currently?
So there's no, I mean, I'm sure if you go to like super special laboratories, there's different clinical trials looking at what might be indicators, but there's nothing commercially available to test for long COVID. It's really the patient who's tested positive for COVID, they've gone through the acute phase of it, and then the symptoms persist, and the diagnosis is made based on that history.
That's something to remember, folks. Let's go to that next slide and talk about possible modalities and therapies to support someone who may have long COVID.
So for me, I like to start with blood work, making sure that the patient is optimized with vitamin D, that their thyroid is working properly, that their hormones are good, that they're not anemic, that their iron stores. So I always start with the fundamentals. After that, it can be, I've sent people to acupuncture. I have patients who do infrared sauna. I've had patients who've done hyperbaric therapy. It's a bit of trial and error, making sure that we're focusing on great nutrition, excellent sleep. I think sleep is pivotal for restoration and immune regulation. we're trying to get the patient regulated again. So we're focusing on the basics, low level exercise. So not over exercising, but not being sedentary. So going for walks. When you wake up first in the morning, getting in front of some sunshine and getting that circadian rhythm established. And then trying to mitigate any stressors. So if there's a toxic person in your life, whether at work or familial ties, really trying to reduce those interactions because stress is not your friend in these situations. So, really thinking holistically about how stress can affect you at the molecular biological level. It's a very multi pronged approach in getting these patients to feel better.
It's fantastic points. And you have some innovative therapies that you know so much about. And I know that being in Mexico a lot in the winter, many people travel from Europe and things for some innovative therapies that there are not as readily available as of now in North America.
Right. So, some of them can be there's a doctor in New Jersey who retrains your stem cells and your T cells and all your immune cells. So there's sort of like an immune retraining that can be done. And the one thing that's really gaining more credibility is plasma exchange. Plasma exchange used to be used for people with really severe autoimmune issues, where they basically connect you to a machine. They draw your blood out of your body, and as it's going through this machine, it's getting filtered for toxins, viral particles, plastics, and then going back into your body. And that's called plasma exchange. So, one thing that could be helpful and looks promising is plasma exchange in
Is that
terms
like chelation, plasma chelation?
Chelation's a little bit different. Chelation is where we sort of bind things and get rid of it, and I think chelation's also very helpful. This is plasmapheresis. They're basically filtering your blood and drawing out all the toxins and bad players.
That's just seems very common sense, but brilliant that they're considering this to really treat the whole person. I love it.
Yeah.
Tell us more about what's on the horizon here.
Yeah, these are some of the modalities most at the forefront. Also really focus on mitochondrial health. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and oftentimes patients with long Lyme or long COVID need mitochondrial support. LED lights and photobiomodulation really can help with mitochondrial health, and also ingredients like PQQ, CoQ10, L-carnitine. These supplements and ingredients can help your mitochondria behave healthier.
It's the energy of the cells, folks. We want optimal energy. We want as much vitality and our cells to be able to do their job, right? And if we should have a virus or a bacterial infection, they're amped up to really support healing. Our bodies are designed to heal. And Dr. Dan is supporting us and learning how we can help ourselves and also what's on the cutting edge and what we can look forward to medicine and how to help ourselves too. We need a care team, don't we? What is the conclusion? What needs to change, Dr. Dan?
So, looking at this from the top down, advocating for system-wide changes in healthcare delivery so that we have better, more cohesive communication between health providers and your dermatologists and neurologists, I think that's really important. I really want to underscore the importance of prevention, early detection, and precision medicine. I'm hoping that people get more access to this, as well as universal healthcare. And then we talked about, it's not in here, we talked about agency and really thinking that you're worthy of good healthcare, making good decisions for yourself, constantly being an advocate and seeking the next best decision that's in front of you. And that's not anything that your doctor can do. That's something that starts with you really being aware and dropping into that space of how can I make good decisions? Can I take the stairs or should I take the escalator? Should I have the soda or should I have the aloe vera water? Whatever those decisions are. But when you have awareness, then you start making good decisions. And then we talked about addressing vaccine safety and long COVID, which really does plague a lot of people, and that there are emerging things that seem to help people, including plasmapheresis, hyperbaric chambers, LED light therapy, even infrared saunas, and really getting to the basics of good nutrition, avoiding inflammation, sleeping well and establishing that circadian rhythm.
Whoa, those are some bullet points for great health. Thank you so much for putting this together with such care and devotion to getting your message across to people. You're offering such wisdom for people that have felt like they've fallen through the cracks and how they can support themselves to reach a new dawn and to realize it is part of their agency, that they have the power to do this. And there's a place where what I loved is you're sharing this medical wisdom and just firing it off as the doctor that you are. However, you're also quite aware of the myriad holistic
Yeah,
influences that are so supportive. I really think about it from the perspective of supporting our body and organs to do their job, to be detoxing, whether it's refreshing with hydrating, especially in the heat of the summer. And gosh, personally, because of doing detox every year, I'm thinking to myself, boy, I'd really like to have a Diet Coke. But do I really want to be dealing with all the
right.
wheatgrass it's going to take to get rid of those chemicals? I think I'm
Exactly.
going to have, a refreshing water with some lemon. So we can make different choices for ourselves based on the fact that we need to support our body systems to detoxify in a very toxic world. And that's going to be a great bridge for our next show, where I get to bring on my co-host, Dan Zabadil, who is so excited that you're here and he wants to join in. So we're going to have you join us, Dr. Dan, on Energy Diagnostics podcast in a couple of weeks. We want to get this to our viewers and friends, and please, we want you guys to really have that access to his wisdom. You've got your Instagram that's so active. Look at these reels. That's at Dr. Dan, Yadegar, Yadegar. And don't miss that. Follow him. And before we close, I really want to encourage you, Dr. Dan, if you had one thing to share with our audience and all those that you want to reach before we close A Healer's Path today, what would it be?
I love that question. I would say you want to start with a quiet mind and have awareness. Have awareness is really important. Keep your eyes open. And for those who are seeking being proactive, there's going to be a lot of goodies. But my real message is for the people and patients who are suffering or don't have hope. There is always hope. There's always ways to improve things. And we're going to be here to help guide you.
That's so loving. I really feel your heart of intention in that. And what an extra special day on A Healer's Path. And we look forward to seeing an Energy Diagnostics podcast continuing this convo, because Dan Zabadil's got lots of great questions. And we have an opportunity for our viewers and our listeners. Dr. Dan would like to invite you to ask your questions, send them to us. We're going to have them answered live and in person next time with Dr. Dan. And I can just imagine the way that you speak. Be bringing the questions to you. You'll be like, oh, that's da, 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 da. You'll just download it as you do. And we're going to capture that wisdom and share it with the masses. We are so honored that you'd be with us today. Thank you, Dr. Daniel Yadegar. Yay. And we'll see you next time. And thank you for
Yeah,
joining.
a real pleasure of mine. Thank you.